presentation is titled Fracking, Pros, Cons, Uncertainty, and Protecting the Safety of Frostburg's Drinking Water. In the audience today we have a variety of community members. We have college students here, we have scientists, we have government representatives, and a variety of other people. So it's terrific to have you all. The issue of fracking will affect all of us in some way. Some for the better, some for the worse, some a little bit more, and some a little bit less. But we will all be affected in some way. And just the fact that you're here today is an indication of the fact that you have already been somehow, in some small way, affected. My students have worked diligently on this project for approximately 3 years. I have some students who took AP Environmental Science as sophomores, such as Bryce, who will be speaking soon, and he has voluntarily continued on the project to this day. And he just asked me earlier, how can he continue into his college years? Leah is another example of that. She'll be speaking second. She took AP Environmental Science last year, and now this year has continued with the project voluntarily. Sydney Castro is in the audience. She is now at FSU, and she has helped us with the project voluntarily, even in her time at FSU. Other students that are talking today have been involved just this year, but they have worked just as hard, have put in a lot of time researching, reading articles, out there in the field, gathering data, and preparing for this day. So I hope you'll give them your full attention. I'm very proud of the work they've done, and I think that you will be impressed with what they're about to present. So welcome and thank you.
Hello, my name is Bryce Darty. I am a senior who has been involved with this project for 3 years. Hydraulic fracturing, also known as hydrofracking, or simply fracking, is the process of using millions of gallons of water mixed with sand and thousands of gallons of varied chemicals to fracture shale rock thousands of feet below the ground. These chemicals and sand particles hold the fractures open, allowing gas to seep back through the drill hole and to be extracted to the surface. The main issue with the process is the water and chemicals used. They are essentially the source of most controversy. The main benefits are economic growth and cleaner fuel. This process is currently being used in West Virginia, Pennsylvania, and Ohio. However, it has not been permitted in the states of New York or Maryland. These are primarily places where the shale gas is found on the East Coast. In May of 2011, we had a guest speaker visit our classroom, Steve Truio of Samson Resources. From his presentation, we learned that his company planned to frack approximately 1/2 mile from the Frostburg Reservoir. This reservoir is the main source of drinking water from Frostburg and surrounding communities, including the FSU and Mount Ridge campus, supplying a total of 12,000 individuals. We learned this prior to the governor's establishment of a moratorium, so we felt a strong sense of urgency to learn as much as possible about the process of fracking and what we could do to protect our city's drinking water from harm. As we continued our research, we learned that 2 tributaries to the Frostburg Reservoir originate in Pennsylvania, the place where fracking is permitted. So moratorium or not, our reservoir and our town could be impacted by fracking.
Hello, my name is Leah Yazdani. I'm a senior who has been involved with this project for 3 years. With the potential for gas drilling in mind, some students in my class last year were enthused about having a fracking site near to our hometown and look forward to the economic benefits. Other classmates strongly opposed this idea, guided by concerns about the quality of our drinking water. We made the decision that the only way to proceed in a bipartisan fashion was to begin collecting baseline water quality data. We learned that baseline data was severely lacking among many conflicted towns in Pennsylvania, such as Dimmock, where confusion and litigation were pervasive after claims of contamination were made. Collecting baseline data neither states, "No fracking allowed here," nor does it state, "Please come and drill." The action of gathering baseline data simply makes the statement, if fracking does occur near our reservoir, we want to know what is going on with our water. Following this decision, we contacted as many experts as we could find to explain to us how we could generate a meaningful and creditable baseline at professional standards. The 2 most important advisors in this phase were Dan Soder of the United States Department of Energy and Dr. Johann Schiff of the University of Maryland Center for Environmental Science Chesapeake Biological Laboratory. With their advice, we made a plan and began implementing the monthly gathering of pre-fracking water quality baseline data starting in February of 2012. Dr. Schiff volunteered to help us analyze barium, strontium, and bromide levels, 3 key fracking indicators. With the help of the FSU Foundation and $69,000 of funding from the State Farm Youth Advisory Board in September of 2012, we were able to expand our baseline sampling to include over 20 analytes at 8 sites, one time each month. Furthermore, under the direction of Michael Kashwagi of the DNR, we have installed continuous conductivity loggers to monitor specific conductivity 24 hours each day, 7 days each week. Based on comparisons with other published documents, we are confident that our baseline effort and data are on par with any professional organization, government agency, or university doing this type of work. Now that we have explained the history and context of this project, we will proceed by explaining our findings. We will then begin with positive aspects of fracking. Then we will explain the negative aspects. From there, we will delve into areas of uncertainty about this gas extraction method, and then into areas where future research is being done. We will then provide an explanation of current government policy regarding fracking. At that time, we will pause for a few questions from the audience. Then, we will conclude with an in-depth look at the methods we have used to generate pre-fracking baseline data, and then finally share our data with you and explain its significance in relation to frac fluid. Our source list for this first section comes primarily from the sources shown here, and we have taken great efforts to ensure that the information is the best scientific information available. We have additional information from our own first-hand interviews from a 2011 visit to Waynesburg, Pennsylvania, and a 2013 visit to Salem, Ohio, 2 places where fracking is common.
I just wanted to go back for just a moment to that slide because that's when the lights were flickering, and it's a very important slide to note that the nearest proposed fracking site is approximately half a mile from the reservoir, and that the potential horizontal boreholes are 6,000 feet below our reservoir, possibly. Just to point that out. Now we're
Hello, my name is Lexi Metz, and I am a sophomore. A notable and upfront positive effect of drilling for the Marcellus Shale will be the job increase in our struggling economy. In the city of Clearfield, Pennsylvania, the unemployment rate dropped from 10.1% in December 2010 to 9% in February 2011 after shale drilling was started in the area. This occurred during a time that unemployment was rising in most of the nation. Traveling drilling crews have already been established and most workers come from other states. Yet over time, as local people receive training, more and more of them may be employed. In the immediate term, hundreds of local truckers are needed to transport the millions of gallons of water and chemicals making up 10% of the jobs in the Marcellus Shale industry. People will be needed to work at hotels and restaurants that the workers visit while they are drilling in the area. In addition, local businesses will gain patrons from hundreds employed on fracking sites. This may allow local businesses to expand or hire more employees. Such business growth was witnessed in Waynesburg, Pennsylvania, and Salem, Ohio. In Salem, auto dealerships that sell pickup trucks have seen sales go through the roof. In both Salem and Waynesburg, owners of rental properties mentioned increasing monthly rates due to increased demand for housing. If there is a tax on extracted gas, tax revenue can be used to fund school and hospital needs. It can also be used to hire more emergency workers and police officers to serve the community and handle the population and traffic increase. A small percentage of the population will benefit from the gas by leasing their property. A farmer from Salem, who owns 1,000 acres, received a signing bonus of $5 million. The city of Salem received $1.3 million up front to sign a lease on city land. They were able to use this money towards hospital improvements, road improvements, and several other public work projects. The Frostburg government is likely to benefit in a similar way, as they do own a significant amount of land suitable for gas extraction. A farmer in Waynesburg, Pennsylvania is receiving $15,000 per month in royalties on extracted gas. Beyond the economic boost, there are important environmental benefits as well. Natural gas is more efficient and cleaner burning than coal. When burned, natural gas releases 58% less CO2 than coal and 33% less CO2 than oil. It has been reported by multiple sources that in 2012, CO2 emissions have fallen to the lowest they have been in 20 years, decreasing to below 1992 levels. This is mainly due to low-priced natural gas replacing coal-fired electricity. Yet, concerns about methane releases, a greenhouse gas that is 30 times more potent than CO2, may override this benefit. Compared to traditional vertical drilling, modern fracking uses a horizontal drilling technique. This allows each drill site to have multiple gas extraction wells, each extending horizontally for 7,000 or more feet in several directions. This minimizes habitat destruction and maximizes gas output for each site. If we converted all of our electricity production to natural gas, we would have enough to power the country for 33 years. Under a more reasonable usage estimate of 25% of the nation's energy, this supply will last 132 years. Using Marcellus gas in cars rather than gasoline could be cheaper than foreign oil. The Marcellus Shale contains enough gas to replace all oil imports for an estimated 54 years. Yet some recent estimates indicate somewhat less gas is in the shale. While popular distrust of this new industry exists, Dan Soder, a leading expert on the topic and geologist for the Department of Energy, states that only an estimated 0.5% of recorded drill sites cause any external contamination events. This means only 1 in 200 wells in Pennsylvania and West Virginia experience major contamination events. Furthermore, the rate of accidents is only 1 in 1,000 in Texas, a state where one regulator can be found for every 3 fracking sites. This indicates that stricter oversight does yield safer drilling. Seeing as Maryland plans to proceed with more caution than its predecessors, the likelihood of accidents should decline. A final piece of supporting evidence in favor of hydraulic fracturing comes from the Center for Rural Pennsylvania. This group monitored water quality in 233 wells. All wells involved in the study were within 5,000 feet of the Marcellus Shale fracturing site. Comparative analysis of pre-fracking and post-fracking water wells shows no significant changes in levels of key indicator chemicals used in hydraulic fracturing or in levels of methane. Only 1 of 233 wells showed an increase of bromide concentrations. However, these levels declined and returned to normal levels within 1 month. Regarding public opinion, of 25 everyday citizens in Salem, 20% did not know enough to make an informed decision on the issue. However, of those who were knowledgeable, 70% were in favor of fracking, and only 30% were opposed to the development of natural gas resources. Peter, the owner of Friends Roastery Coffee, stated, "I would allow it because it has great advantages if done correctly." Peter has a similar viewpoint on the issue as Nick, a retiree who was strongly in favor of fracking. Nick Rodriguez stated, "Fracking brings in good-paying jobs to an area that was dying." Even more gas is held in the Utica Shale, a similar untapped natural gas deposit below the Marcellus. The combination of Utica and Marcellus both have the ability to supply large amounts of energy to our country for over a century, making it important to consider the positive effects these sources will have before we come to a decision.
Hello, my name is Christian Gillis. I am a sophomore. Drilling the Marcellus Shale in Allegheny County may seem like a great opportunity that many look forward to, but there are many flaws with this potentially great energy source. I will speak only of proven and documented problems, while focus primarily on those that may affect our drinking water. First, there is an issue with water consumption. In the drilling process, there are approximately 4 million gallons of water used to retrieve the gas. This water comes from local streams and rivers and is used until the job is completed. With many wells being drilled at once, this demand on water can be tremendous. Yet, with proper oversight, our area can handle this demand. But water is not the only ingredient in the drilling process. The second concern is the many chemicals that are needed to effectively retrieve the gas and hold the cracks in the earth open. These propane chemicals include kerosene, benzene, hydrochloric acid, other carcinogens, neurotoxins, and a host of other dangerous substances. For each drilling project, more than 15,000 gallons of these harmful chemicals are used. Large trucks transport these concentrated chemicals to the drilling site and then mix the chemicals with water. This is a very risky procedure because if there should be a spill, even a small scale spill, the great concentration of the chemicals should have devastating effects on the environment or on human health. Small spills of 10 to 100 gallons are a common occurrence. While each spill may be small, the cumulative upkeep of all these spills from many sites is still much larger and could have potential unknown consequences and effects. An EPA study indicates that fracking caused significant contamination of the drinking water in wells in Pavilion, Wyoming. The depth of the borehole was much less than that of the Appalachian boreholes, and the composition of the separating rock were different than that in our area. However, it's still a key example of contamination emanating from an underground borehole. Another problem with drilling deals with how wastewater is handled and treated. This produced water, in many cases, sits in man-made ponds. This poses risks to humans due to potential leaks, and wildlife that may wander to these exposed chemical pools. When this wastewater returns to the earth, it contains uranium, radon, and the other fracking chemicals mentioned earlier. Current municipal wastewater treatment facilities are not designed to handle such chemicals, and proper treatment is extremely expensive, not to mention that very few facilities even exist for this process. Our state plans to require disposal of proper treatment facilities, but because of the high expense for proper treatment, precedent indicates that violations will occur. Such infractions have already been witnessed in Pennsylvania. Furthermore, injection of wastewater fluids into deep injection wells 20,000 feet below the edge surface has been linked to small earthquakes in Ohio and Arkansas. Many citizens in Salem mentioned a concern about earthquakes. For each Marcellus Shale drilling well, 250 tons of drill cuttings are collected. While drilling down to the shale, the drill bit grinds up material that is carried upwards towards the surface. The biggest concern about drill cuttings is the fact that they contain harmful amounts of radioactivity due to the high radium concentrations. Thus far, drill cuttings have either been buried on the fracking site or transported to nearby municipal landfills. Neither of these disposal methods are acceptable, nor are they safe. Accidents and miscalculations happen as well. All of the citizens in the town of Carmichael were ordered by the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection to boil their water. This was a result of complications with fracking flowback fluid in their municipal water supply. 7 families in Bradford County were ordered to evacuate and drink bottled water after a blowout occurred in April of 2011. Even where there are no proven cases of contamination, anxiety about the health of drinking water is widespread. We saw proof of this concern in both Pittsburgh and Salem, where even most proponents of fracking mentioned concern about their drinking water. The Government Accountability Office report indicates that for states who are trying to properly regulate fracking processes, state regulators are becoming very difficult to keep in employment. Often, fracking companies will offer state regulators jobs within the industry with a higher salary than what the regulators make for the state. This leads to fewer inspections on frac sites and an increased chance for accidents and spills. Another concern is the impact on air quality near fracking sites. In Waynesburg, inmates in a prison situated about 300 yards from the well pad complained about fumes being released from the site. Many studies regarding air quality, particularly VOC emissions, are just beginning to emerge. A final concern mentioned in Waynesburg was the significant increase in truck traffic. An account taken by environmental science students in the spring of 2011 while sitting along the main street in Waynesburg, approximately 50 18-wheelers passed by in a 1-hour period. Yet, similar amounts of truck traffic were not observed in Salem. This difference was probably due to the higher number of fracking sites near Waynesburg as compared to Salem. It is our opinion that the fracking rate in our area will be more similar to Salem than that in Waynesburg. While drilling for gas in the Marcellus Shale may bring economic growth to our area, a host of other problems may also accompany it.
Hello, my name is Brooke Devlin. I'm a junior. The biggest unaddressed questions regarding fracking are, what happens to the remaining 3 million gallons of frac fluid that is not received? Does it stay underground? If it does stay underground, for how long? What new chemicals are produced when frac chemicals react with deep rock? Will it resurface at a later date far into the future? Most prevalent on citizens' minds, does any of this seep into aquifers and other drinking water sources? What is the probability of fracking fluids flowing through pre-existing geological cracks and into groundwater supplies? The answer to all of these questions is no one is sure yet. While some studies are beginning to emerge, neither the EPA, DNR, USGS, nor any other scientific organization has conclusive answers yet. Likely, definitive answers on these questions will not exist for decades, as the only way to know for sure is to observe. It seems that the Maryland legislature is prepared to require full disclosure of all fracking chemicals used in order to earn a permit, and this is a step in the right direction. Yet if the chemicals that are commonly used, what are the health impacts of continued low-level consumption over many years? What is the health impact when hundreds of wells using millions of gallons of fracking fluids are all in a county for 20, 50, or 100 years? How long do the permanent drilling pipes last before corrosion, weathering, and other effects cause them to crack? Will they last 50, 100, 200 years or more? If these pipes eventually do crack open, what will the consequences be? Somerset County currently has about 50 frac sites. It is known that Garrett County will produce more gas than Allegheny County. How many fracking sites will be developed in Allegheny County? One source suggests that Garrett County may have 1,500 wells, and Allegheny County may eventually have 200. Are these predictions accurate? When will we see the first frac site in Allegheny County? In 2010, the price of natural gas was approximately $11 per 1,000 cubic feet. Due to an abundant supply and lagging demand, the price of natural gas had declined over the past 2 years and bottomed out at $2 per 1,000 cubic feet. This change in price caused the industry to move westward towards Ohio, where more lucrative wet gases can be found and used to make plastics. However, Dan Soder predicts that natural gas prices will rebound over the next 5 years and stabilize at around $6 per 1,000 cubic feet. He states that when this price is reached, the pressure to frack in Garrett County and Allegheny County will return. What will really happen with natural gas prices? Will the site near our reservoir ever be fracked? As already stated, some answers are beginning to emerge. However, most of the questions just asked can only be answered by waiting and watching over decades.
Hello, my name is Hunter Barclay and I am a sophomore. Research on fracking has been increasing exponentially over the past 5 years. The EPA will release a report entitled Potential Impacts of Hydraulic Fracturing on Drinking Water Resources in 2014. The Department of Energy is conducting a risk assessment to determine the statistical likelihood of specific types of accidents, the probability of contamination events, the seriousness of the effects on nearby communities, and the estimated cost of mitigation and cleanup. This information will be released within the next few years. Air quality studies are growing in number. Most important for us, the Maryland's Governor Commission on Safe Drilling is evaluating this issue and its positive and negative impacts on the state very carefully, with a full report due in 2014. Dr. Keith Escherman and Dr. Andrew Elmore's study for the Governor's Commission explains what actual practices would provide the maximum protection of Maryland's environment, natural resources, and public safety. While the study does admit there will be inevitable negative impacts from the fracking, it also seeks to determine the best ways to carry out fracking. This study also explains why choosing where to drill is such an essential part of the process and indicates that there are certain places where fracking should never be permitted. A setback of 2,000 feet from key drinking water sources is also a strong recommendation. 2 years of industry-funded baseline testing for all waters within a 2,000-foot radius would also be required for each fracking site. Full disclosure of fracking chemicals is another key recommendation. Escherman states that all transfer of materials must be performed carefully on the well pads so that any spills can be quickly and fully contained. Under no circumstances should open pits for storage of waste or wastewaters be allowed in Maryland. He also sets out clear guidelines for well casing and pad design. He further states that under no circumstances should Maryland allow discharge of untreated brine into the state's water. Also that Maryland should have a goal of 100% recycling of wastewater. With Eshelman's recommendations, much of the risk of fracking can be minimized, but not completely eliminated. Furthermore, this risk will only be minimized if our state government adopts and properly enforces the recommended policies. The issue of enforcement would be one good addition to Maryland's best practices. Regulation without proper enforcement is meaningless. Texas has an accident rate of only 1 in 1,000 sites, compared to the national average of 1 in 200 sites. This is due to the fact that Texas has 1 inspector for every 3 fracking sites. Maryland must require oversight with a strong presence on fracking sites, perhaps using Texas as an example. The governor approved $1.5 million for environmental studies to be completed in Maryland so that citizens and government officials can learn as much as possible and make informed decisions. Such studies include baseline analysis of water quality. This testing is necessary to determine whether fracking is harming water and soil in surrounding areas, or if the conditions were pre-existing. But according to Maryland's Marcellus Shale Safe Drilling Initiative study, released in December 2011, Garrett County will be the sole focus of baseline studies in the immediate future. Because of economic constraints, baseline sampling sites in Allegheny County will not be included in the state-funded research set. The Frostburg Reservoir will not be part of this baseline either. Furthermore, even Eshelman's industry-funded baseline testing recommendation would not protect our reservoir from the proposed fracking site seen earlier. The selected site is 3,200 feet from the reservoir, 1,200 feet too far to be covered under this policy. This is true in spite of the fact that underground boreholes could extend directly beneath our reservoir from the proposed fracking site.
Hello, my name is Becky Schindler. I am a senior. In both our local and state government, there is quite a lot of controversy over the topic of drilling in Marcellus Shale. Some officials want to start drilling now, while others want to observe the experiences of other states and then take measures to improve drilling methods in Maryland. The county commissioners of Garrett and Allegheny counties want to see fracking start as soon as possible. They are quoted in a 2012 letter to the governor encouraging the Advocacy Commission to expedite the review. Senator Edwards and Delegate Beitzel share their pro-fracking perspective. They would like to boost the local economy as soon as possible. In the most recent Maryland General Assembly, all bills that would ban or delay fracking were either withdrawn or defeated. President Barack Obama has been encouraging the exportation of massive domestic energy source and shale fuels. He supports drilling in the Marcellus Shale, but will take every possible action to safely develop this energy. As Governor O'Malley has approved $1.5 million to complete environmental studies related to fracking, it is our opinion that he would not approve any funding if he did not see fracking activity as a strong possibility. It is our opinion that fracking will come to our state at some point. We will now take 2 to 3 questions from the audience before we proceed to explain our pre-fracking baseline methods and data.
Justin.
Yeah,
I'll moderate the questions. Okay. So we are going to open it up for questions now, and the students will be answering them. If anybody have a question, will raise their hand. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
I'm a bit confused by your negatives and positive section, where you say, there are, I believe it was 0.05% of instances of accidents at drill sites in Pennsylvania and West Virginia, and even less so in Texas. But I wonder, out of that 0.5%, how many of those were earthquakes? How many of those were instances where people couldn't drink the water that was coming out of their faucets that they should be able to drink, bathe, and do those kind of things in? And I wonder what you as students, what your feelings are about the possibility that your water could, like it is where I'm from, in Texas, that place where studies show that apparently there's only 1 in 1,000 instances of accidents. I wonder what your feelings are on even just the possibility that, like there, at some point you might be able to light your tap water on fire as it's running. Not just a cup of water, but stick a lighter up to your tap water and see flames shooting out of it.
So we'll take the last part of that, and that is, what do you think is the probability that if an accident occurred, it would lead to you lighting your water on fire? Let's do that part.
That actually wasn't my question. My
Oh.
feelings, my question was, how do you feel about that possibility?
How do we feel about the
Yeah,
possibility?
how do
I'm
you
just
feel
trying
about
to
the
make sure we
possibility
understand the
that
question.
this could actually happen here?
How do we feel about the possibility that an accident could happen here?
Yeah, that something like that could happen.
That's a good question. We'll try to answer that one for you.
Well, if you think about it, for Pennsylvania, we have the ratio that's 1 to 200 spills. So that means 1 out of every 200 drills every spot that's drilled, there's an accident. So if you think about it, 1 out of 200, okay, that's only 1 out of 200. But if you think about it, if your area is that one that is drilled and is affected by, then that's just your water, your land, everything is affected. And it's not just in that one spot, but when the water runs downstream, it goes into the reservoir, it goes into other places. And it's just not that just one area, but it keeps going on and on into other areas. And if it's just not just that 1 out of 200, but in another spot, it's 1 out of 200. That's another area that's affected, and that water can go to somewhere else and somewhere else. It's not just one little area, but it's like a whole cycle and a whole area that's affected.
Sure, thank you very much, yeah.
I'd like to get a second answer on that one too.
I think that personally it's frightening. There's a probability of there being over 1,000 wells in Garrett County and hundreds in Allegheny County. So if you're looking at the figure of 1 spill out of 200 frac sites, that's a lot of spills, and that could be very harmful to our drinking water.
Anybody else like to try that one too?
Even if there is highly regulated, such as in Texas, and it goes to 1 in 1,000 spills, in Garrett County there could be many fracking sites, so even 1 or 2 spills could be very detrimental to the environment.
Well, Garrett County is a lot smaller than Texas. I mean,
Yes.
So I would add though to that as far as the number 1 to 200 versus 1 in 1,000, it would seem that Maryland's regulations are going to be more strict, and therefore we will probably be closer to the 1 in 1,000 number than the 1 in 200 number. So that is just something to consider. Okay, let's take another question. Go ahead.
In addition to that, I mean, there's no border, I mean, there's a border between the states, between the counties, between Garrett and Allegheny, but that doesn't mean that what they are experiencing in Garrett County won't come into our area. Is that correct?
Somebody else can answer.
That is correct. That's very interesting because a fracking site actually opened up near our area, and that is one of the main reasons that we got interested in this project to begin with. So contamination can be prevalent in one state and affect another state close to the borders.
Exactly. I mean, from Pennsylvania
Yes.
specifically.
Yeah. Fracking is very
It does run downhill, no, I'm just kidding.
Anybody else want to answer?
To add into that, I mean, the one slide we had up here, we had the picture of all the proposed sites or possible sites in Garrett County. And it showed 2 active drilling sites directly on the border of West Virginia and Garrett County. If there's a spillover in West Virginia where the regulations are not as strict, that easily can access over to Garrett County, and if it goes there, it could access to our area. So I mean, even if we don't have drilling here, it's still a threat.
Okay, so just to clarify a little bit of what Jeffrey said as well as and Bryce mentioned that we do have several sites just across the border in West Virginia, but we have no known fracking sites within our reservoir's watershed yet. The known fracking sites that are closest are probably in Somerset County, about 10 to 15 miles away, maybe a little more, 25 miles away. So there is no known one near our reservoir currently within the watershed. Okay, But also thank you for those good answers there. Let's take one more question, then we're going to go into how we collected data on the water quality and actually share that data with you. Yes, go ahead.
I'm sorry, but I'm dead set against this, only because I have grandsons. And as I look to the future, I don't see anything about this that's any good, except somebody getting a lot of money.
Okay. Somebody like to respond to that? Provide a further opinion on that? Carly, go ahead.
As opposed to using natural gas that is going to be fracked, coal is probably going to be used. And natural gas has a lot less CO2 emissions, which is better for our environment. So that could be a positive plus side of hydraulic fracturing.
Perhaps one more answer to that question?
As you said, like with your grandsons, yes, there are a lot of concerns too. And when we talked to some citizens in Salem, they addressed how they were concerned about this issue. But they also said that when their kids would get out of high school and their children, sometimes there wouldn't be jobs there for them. So this often opened up economic opportunities for their children to get jobs when they came out of high school or college.
Good answers. Thank you to our panel. We will take further questions at the end. We can go as long as you would like at the end, but we want to make sure that we get within our time limit. So we will resume with our baseline data